I think so many people don't know why they're here.
Unfortunately.
Why are you here? Why do you
I
think you're here?
think, you know how I see myself in this superhero movies. There are always like a Gandalf, a Dumbledore, someone who guides the hero. I think my mission is not to
Right.
the hero itself, but to awaken the hero,
Hmm.
to guide this hero and to tell him or her why she is here. So I see myself really as a guide because I can see the spirits of the person and I tell like what kind of spirit he or she is, for example, angelic or whatever. So I see myself as a guide and to enlighten people because the channel is really strong and I'm not hiding it anymore. So
Hmm.
this is my purpose here.
Welcome to the Illuminating Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, Marcia Narine Weldon, and I'm a lawyer, business strategist, corporate trainer, and executive coach. Each week, I'm going to bring you my favorite entrepreneurs, thought leaders, legal professionals, and other coaches who will inspire, educate, and empower you. So I am here with Melissa Kazan. I'm so excited to have you here because we have so much in common. But I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Now, I have generally an audience of lawyers, professionals,
Hmm.
business people, and some people who are kind of woo like me. So tell people exactly who you are and why this is going to be an amazing
Thank
episode.
you for the invitation, first of all. Yes, so Melissa, and I'm a psychic, and I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm an author and a speaker. So I have a deep dive into the subconscious mind and the spiritual world, and I love to combine it. And this will be an fantastic episode because I think people are curious about these topics and they want to know more. And I have a lot of to deliver today.
Fantastic. So one thing that's really interesting is that you actually started off in business. So you've talked about a psychic, hypnotherapist, etc., and speaker. But how did you go from business to being? Well, you're probably always a
Yeah.
psychic. So how did you go from being a business to kind of more like a coach that focuses on spirituality and the
Yes, for sure,
subconscious?
because I never mentioned that I studied business economics and I worked for 10 years in corporate. It was for me like
Right.
working in jail. And I always like, especially the last years, I questioned like, is this the reason of life? Why am I here to do some Excel and PowerPoint presentations and so on? And I was questioning all the time and I felt more and more depressive, frustrated, and really, really unhappy. I was really depressive, spending hours in front of Netflix
Hmm.
and so on. It was, and I said, no, this isn't it. And 10 years ago, I started my journey with spirituality.
So I know that there's probably half my listeners are saying, I'm doing the same thing. I'm depressed. I hate my life. So but for some people, like the money is too
Yeah.
good to leave. I am really lucky that I think I'm a unicorn. I love everything I do. I'd probably do
Hmm.
it for free. Not really. If anybody's listening who pays me for stuff, I really wouldn't do it for free. But I'm super happy. But I know that many people I know, many of my colleagues, many of my coaching clients, many of my students who are going into the legal profession are going into a situation where many people are very,
Yeah,
very unhappy, but they make a good living, or society expects them, or they did all that
exactly.
studying. So how am I
Hmm.
going to leave? What am I going to do? So what was it that gave you that courage to make that leap, and not to make a leap from one corporation to another corporation, but from just going completely on the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
side?
because during the 10 years, I switched a lot during the companies because I thought when I switch, I will get happier. It will change. This is why I really,
Right.
really jumped. And people were
Right.
asking, like, why did you switch so often? And you never can tell the truth. And this year, I quit my job fully. So the reason was
Hmm.
that I was telling myself, okay, I cannot stay within this life anymore. The thing is that the suffering and the
Right.
pain was so huge, so immense that I couldn't stand it
Yeah.
anymore. I couldn't breathe. And it was like
Mhm.
so extensive that I said, okay, I have to change it right now. The thing is that we have to work on our subconscious that we believe that we can make it. Unfortunately, many people make that jump without thinking or just, okay, I leave it and the universe will help me. It's not working like that. And this is why I'm here also today to explain it is simple, but not as you think maybe it is.
it's simple
Yeah,
but not
yeah,
easy.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that's the better way
exactly.
to say it. So I think people who know me know I'm very focused on things like the subconscious mind, but who knows how many people really understand how that works. So when you say the subconscious, right, I think people have heard about it. People have heard about things like manifestation. If I just
Hmm.
say I believe it, it'll come true. I watch The Secret. All right. So what's the misunderstanding, that the most common misunderstandings you
Hmm.
think about when it comes to what the subconscious is and how it
Well, the
works?
biggest misunderstanding is that if I do 100 times affirmations, that my subconscious will change, as you said. It's not about the
Mm,
affirmations.
right.
We have a brain, we have a human body, we have a DNA. So we have to first understand that the
Hmm.
amygdala is connected to the reptilian brain, and the neurocortex is not itself only functioning, but there's a huge system behind. So the subconscious keeps me
Right.
alive, this human body. So whatever it costs, the first thing is that it has to keep you alive, not making you happy, not making
Right.
you satisfied. It's about being alive no matter what. And this is why the
Hmm.
subconscious tries to keep us in our comfort zone, because this is the safe zone where we survive. So when I do the affirmations, money comes with me with ease and joy and glory. It doesn't work because it has this mindset. And the subconscious is also the thing when we are asleep at night. Our heart beats, we keep breathing,
Hmm.
everything, all this system does the
Hmm.
subconscious again. So it is not only
Hmm.
a mindset or something, but it is much more beyond that. It is the whole system. Our existence rely on the subconscious.
Got it. So, you talked about affirmations about money comes to me easily, etc. And people say these 100 times, and they, go under a full moon or a
I
new
did
moon,
that.
etc. None of which I'm against, right? None of which I'm against, right? And we'll talk in a little while about the significance of 12/12, because we're recording this
Yes.
on 12/12. People won't see it later, but it's a significant day. But you also worked with Dr. Ken Honda, who people know
Yes.
is very famous in terms of money, and he has a very specific way of looking at money and manifestation. What are some of the biggest blocks people have when it comes to making money, earning money, or even thinking that it's
Hmm.
possible, right? Because for you to make the leap into what you did, you had to believe it was possible. You had to know it, or at least be courageous enough to take a chance. But when it comes to money, everybody needs it. I know sometimes there's a thought of, some people grew up saying, well, money is the root of all
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
evil,
exactly.
or people are greedy. There's a lot of things that come into us that we get programmed even
Mhm.
as children. So when you work with people around money issues, kind of what's some of the best advice you have on
I
that?
directly go to the childhood and to the family system, to the ancestors. There it starts because it is in my DNA. It is not only my father, my mother, because where did they get their limiting beliefs? From whom? Their parents. And from where did they
Right.
get it? So we have to look a little bit much more back to the past and not only our parents. And it is about changing it.
Right.
There is only one more big,
Mhm.
big misunderstanding about that I have to cut the connection to my ancestors and whatever. It's not about cutting the
Right.
connection. I say, hey, it's a superpower. Like, why do you want to cut the connection to the ancestors, but transform this?
Right.
Because this is only one thing of many.
Mhm.
Thanks to our ancestors, we are alive, but they experienced something. And this experience makes us believe money is evil, or much money makes us whatever, bad people. And this is what we have it in the
Right.
subconscious. And this is really, really like deep in the subconscious inside, so that we cannot easily change it with some affirmations. And Ken Honda does that. He goes to the childhood, he goes to the subconscious, and there he changes the roots, because otherwise it makes no sense. I lost a lot of money because of my limiting beliefs about money, a lot, where I thought,
Right.
oh, like, yeah, and it hurts.
So there's a lot of threads we can take from there. So one of those is the thought about childhood. And I know you do work with childhood and
Mhm.
childhood trauma. Now there's some people that say when you ask people to remember things from childhood, etc., it can
Mhm.
re-traumatize them. Um, what's and I know there's other people who focus on it, and I believe this, what you learn from
Mhm.
0 to 7, particularly 0 to 3, but definitely 0 to 7, it affects
Exactly.
everything. And one of the things I ask people is, what did you have to do or say to receive love when you were about 7 or 8, right? Or to receive attention. And that's the thing that carries on for everybody, right? So when you look at childhood and when you talk to people about childhood, what do you tell them to examine without being their therapist or their psychiatrist? And because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think you're a therapist,
Not
correct?
officially. Yes, yes, yes. The hypnotherapy,
Hypnotherapy,
yes,
yes,
but not
but
the
right.
therapist
Okay,
itself.
so
Yeah, yeah.
correct. Right. And we'll talk about the hypnotherapy in a second. But what do you focus on when it comes to childhood? Because for some people, they suppress those deep
Unfortunately.
wounds or they don't want to talk about them. So how do you get them to talk about it, and why is it important? What kind of changes have you seen when people start to really examine what childhood does or
It
did?
takes a lot of courage to face it. This is why people are running away from this kind of stuff, and they do spiritual
Yes.
stuff,
Yeah.
energy work, and so on, but it's not helping at all. It is painful to face it, but if you face it, then there is a big healing. I had a lot of results. And how I do it, that, for example, if people are like running away, I only say them, do you really, when you get 80 and you change nothing, and when you look back, won't you then say,
Right.
I could have lived my life in a different way? And this is the most painful thing,
Right.
when you lose the time more and more and more, and you say, look back, and it's too late then, because time you cannot buy. There is one thing that is not
Absolutely.
irreversible, in its time. So the price is too
Right.
high.
So the price is too high. Now, you said you've had some great results. Is there any story you're comfortable sharing? Obviously, leaving out names, but is there anything that you can kind of share with people to help make this a little bit more
Yeah, for
concrete for them
sure.
about how working on
Yeah,
childhood has
yeah. I
helped?
have a lot
Hmm.
of stories. One of my greatest successes, a woman, age
Hmm.
25, she had sociophobia, so she couldn't get outside of the house without her parents or anyone. She get panic attacks and so on. And she
Hmm.
had years of therapy. She even stood in the clinic and so on, but no results. In the end, the doctor said, "Sorry, you have to learn to live with that. We can do nothing. There is nothing to do." So she came to me like I was her last hope. Uh, I did really
Really?
one session. I found out what the root is, and here is where my psychic abilities helps a lot. So I go to the root, I find it out, and then with hypnotherapy, I transform it. After that, 3 weeks later, I got a message. Melissa, you won't believe what happened. I am on my own at the university. I go shopping right now, and so on. And like, imagine years of therapy and only one session, because hypnosis is really the king of all techniques, and it is also in the medicine accepted. It's really, really very powerful if you
Yes.
find the true root. If you find it, this is the important thing.
Right.
The analysis is the most important.
Right. So you and I are both hypnotherapists. And it's curious because some people get very
Hmm.
resistant. And no matter what you tell them, look, all hypnosis is self hypnosis. It's like, you tell them all the things, but
Hmm.
people get like, I don't know. So with things like hypnosis, how do you overcome the skeptics? So you and I know how
Oh, yeah.
powerful it can be, but how do you overcome the skeptics, or how do you get people to even be willing
Hmm.
to try it?
So I explain in a scientific way what it is, what it does with the body, and why it is so powerful, about the theta level of the brain. So I got to get here really, really like scientific, because then they are okay. If science says something, it must be true.
I
And then
right.
I step back. I I say I don't
Hmm.
sell a plate, whatever, a house or car. I don't sell anything.
Hmm.
I have I have the
Right.
result, or no, not the result, but the medicine for you, and you have to come to
Right.
me. So I don't insist, never. I say, okay, you can try it, but if you don't want to, I don't
Hmm.
insist, because then I don't get any results. For sure, it's then a little bit sad to
Right.
watch, because you have the medicine and this person is afraid to take it. But I step back. When I step back, they get curious. One moment, she's not trying to sell.
Mm.
And I'm very self-confident by telling
Yes.
it, and I sell and tell them my stories, my success stories, and I wait for them to come. I never go to them, make a hypnosis, do a hypnosis, da, 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 because this makes them like more skeptical, more anxious, and they don't come in the end. So I say, if you want, I have the medicine. It's like aspirin. If you have a headache, you go and take it. I'm not selling a vitamin B,
Right.
because vitamin D you can get and
Right.
not, but if you have a headache, you try to get a solution. And I need
Yeah.
those people who have a
Mhm.
headache and says like, okay, now I need a solution for this.
So, do you think everyone can be hypnotized, or there's some people that just can't be hypnotized? And how do you
I
know?
know it directly when about their reactions for sure, and if they are in their mind.
Mhm.
So if someone says, "You cannot hypnotize me, but let's try it," I say then, "Sorry, I will not hypnotize you because you
Right.
already
So they're
closed
talking about,
yourself." So it's all about trust,
right.
and I always say like, "What kind of advantage should I have by doing any harm?" For sure, there might be some, but it makes no sense for me. Like, what do I do? Yeah, it makes no sense.
Well, don't forget, people have, they see things on
Unfortunately.
television or they see the stage hypnosis. I'm going to quack like a chicken, or give
Yeah,
me all
yeah,
of your
yeah, yeah.
money, or whatever it is
It
that
can
people
be
think. And so I
misused
think that that's why,
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely,
And this is why
absolutely.
I like, if you want, you can get it. Otherwise, you're free. Like, and this makes them more comfortable with
Right.
that. And but not everyone can be hypnotized. It's some people are close to that. They don't want it, and I don't do it then for sure, because it makes no sense. You get no results, and yeah.
And then they're
Yeah,
more
yeah,
angry in the first place.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
see, I told
exactly,
you it wouldn't work.
exactly.
So I did not get a chance to see this because you were in Tallinn, Estonia at Mind Valley last July,
Yeah.
or in July. I didn't come till week 3, so I missed your presentation. But I know that you did a
Mm-hmm.
presentation on
Mm-hmm.
childhood trauma and limiting beliefs and
Yes.
sabotage. And then you did a hypnotherapy session
Oh
for
my
240
God,
people.
yes.
So walk us through what that was like. First of all, what were some of the things that our audience can get some benefit from in terms of some of the things that you
Mm-hmm.
shared with the group? And then let's go to what it was like to do hypnotherapy for 240 obviously
Yeah,
willing
yeah.
people, because they wouldn't have gone there otherwise. But
Yeah.
tell us about the
Yeah,
first
the
part.
first part was about being vulnerable on the stage and showing my own
Mhm.
life, because this makes then access
Yes.
to the audience, to show them, okay, look, this is my childhood, and this is the reason why I experience it, and then how did I change it? I make the storyline out of it, and I explained like why is that,
Mhm.
and I took myself as an example there. And I really like an open book, no hiding, this, and people get some sympathy towards me, and I can really felt that they were really interacting also, and I asked them questions and so on, so that they feel understood, like, oh, I'm not the only one.
What were some of the questions that you asked? Give me an example of some of the questions so that the audience members can ask themselves questions because they
For
couldn't be
example,
there.
one of the question was, I said that I don't remember my all of my childhood. And I asked, like, how many of you don't remember their childhood? And there was really almost half of the audience who raised their hand. And I said, like, look to each other, like, you are not the only one. And this was one of the, and for example, who has a narcissistic father or mother, because we are not aware of this as a child, and then we think this is normal, and then it disturbs our psychology, and what it can make out of us, our self-confidence, our beliefs, mindset, everything gets affected by that. And this, it was really amazing. People had like opened their eyes with that.
So I saw you did a video on Instagram about
Hmm.
narcissists, right? And I think a lot of people throw the word around like, he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist. Um, what is it? What is a narcissist? And how do you know if you were raised by one or if you are
Hmm.
one? And chances are, if you are one, you don't think you're the
Yeah,
narcissist.
yeah,
But
yeah. I have a lot of clients in the last days, for example, who come to me and he says like, yeah, my partner says I have a narcissistic disorder, blah, blah, and so on. And I want to solve this. And I said like, no, wait one moment, because I had also psychology education. So I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a psychology advisor.
right,
So we learned all the syndromes
mhm,
there and so on. So, and the
right,
narcissist is the
hmm,
one who is never his or her fault, but it is the other one's fault. It is like a lot of playing with psychology and making you feeling guilty by blaming you and playing with emotions for sure. And this ups and downs, they are like nice, and then they are like mean, and they are nice, and they say sorry, and you say, okay, I forgive you, and then they do the same behavior again and again. There is a pattern. You have to see the pattern here. If you realize the pattern, then
Right.
you can understand, oh, okay, I have a narcissist in front of me. My father is one, but I realized it when I was 39 that he was a narcissist, or still is, because he played me against
Mm-hmm.
my mother and my brother. Look, they behave so bad to me, and I'm the victim here, and blah blah blah. And to them, he was different behavior, very mean and very nasty and so
Yeah.
on. But I couldn't distinguish this. Oh, my poor father gets bullied by my mother, but it was the other way around. So, and the thing is that the victims of the narcissist, they have a problem with themselves, forgiving themselves, because they were fooled. You feel fooled in the end. Like how couldn't I realize it? How was I so stupid? My ex-mother-in-law was also narcissist. Although in
Mm-hmm.
psychology they say narcissists are men and women are borderline. So there is
Okay.
a thin line between them, because women and men are different in that case of behavior. Women use more the emotional part,
Mm-hmm.
and men more like being dominant and like more strong and egocentric. So it's not easy to distinguish, to be honest. Only when you get out of the picture,
Mm-hmm.
then you realize, then it's
And you can see it
then
more
it's a little bit too late, because you spent a lot of years, and it's about self-forgiving then, to forgive yourself first, not the other person,
clearly.
but it's the hardest thing, I think, to forgive yourself.
I I think that is 100% true. I spend a lot of time thinking about forgiveness, and I write about forgiveness, and I talk about it a lot. And the hardest thing is for people to forgive themselves. And of course, that comes like, from the childhood conditioning, which comes, from the various ancestors, which, you're right. You can't cut it off. You have to address it. You have to understand. That doesn't mean that you need to, spend time around the person that's harmed you.
Mm.
You can love them from a
Yeah,
distance,
still.
right? Um, but forgive yourself and forgive them and move on, I think, is the
Hmm.
easiest way to heal, because I think if you don't forgive, you
No.
can't heal. And you sit there, and it has physical manifestations. I think it has generational. We've learned about things like
Yeah.
epigenetics now, where things kind of could continue to pass down. So if for no other reason, so that your children don't go through this and their children don't go through this, we have to kind of work on
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ourselves. But I want to go back to something you said earlier about being a psychic. So when did you know you were a psychic? How did you know? And when did you feel comfortable telling people about your talent, your gifts?
I found out in 2017. I went to a psychic back then.
Mhm.
I was about, shall I divorce or not? I was very confused back then. And I wrote a paper full of questions. I went to him, and he was like, put the paper away, and da, 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 and he talked and he answered all the questions on the paper without knowing the questions. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that too. Somehow I got attracted to that. And he was making a course, 3 modules, and I visited all of them. The first one, I realized, okay, there's something weird, because I started reading people and so on. And he came to me and said, okay, you are special gifted. Like, not everyone is like that high, but, and in the future, you will do more. And I said, oh, okay. And in 2018, in the third module, I then, in the last, we had a little exam, and I passed it, and it was like really,
Mm-hmm.
really crazy. I like all the exercises we did, I hit like almost 100%. And I said, nah, maybe I'm making
Mm,
it up, and so on, this mind thing. During the years,
right.
it developed more and more, more and more. And to be honest, like this year, I'm like going to the outside. I made it, but like at backstage, through friends and so on, a little
Yes.
bit. I was like afraid
Right.
of being like criticized or bullied or whatever. I was
I
like
judge.
not that sure, because this is something spiritual, and I didn't want to people like think wrong about me. Now I don't care, to be honest. But back then, it was, and I worked on my own limiting beliefs. And since this year, because
Mm-hmm.
the spirit said, okay, Melissa, you have to get on stage. It's enough is enough. Like, you have a mission with that. And on also astrologic chart, my mediumship is very, very strong. So I was born with that gift. So I have to share it. And since then, magic happens, especially with the psychic abilities. This is why my hypnotherapy is so successful, because I see the roots. I can read the subconscious, nail it, and then get it away, transform it.
Yeah. We have such parallels because I always had certain kinds of abilities, but I ignored it as I'm making
Yeah.
this up, even as a child. And then as I started really getting more, as I started getting more and more, studying and reading and, whether it's Akashic records or all these different kinds of things. And I didn't say anything to anybody, but all of a sudden and I took some trainings and I would go to a conference and I would sit next to somebody and I would say, I have something crazy to tell you. Can I tell you? But at first I'd ask my voice, I'm like, should I tell this person? I'd say, um, for some reason, I just see a bunch of ladybugs crawling all over you and a person in a blue shirt over your left shoulder. I hope this is not totally crazy. And the person started to cry. And I said, oh my God. She goes, no, today is the anniversary of my father's death. He
Oh,
always wore a
wow.
blue shirt and my nickname is
Wow.
Ladybug. And I was like, okay, I guess that's all right. So now I always say, should I tell this person? But I'm not that kind of person that can look at you and say, Melissa, I feel like such and
Mm-hmm.
such is going on. So it just, for me, just
Yeah,
comes up
yeah,
randomly. But I always listen. I always listen, whether it's that voice that tells me, turn left. I'm like, all
yeah,
right, I'll just turn left. But you have to start to really trust yourself and you have to know yourself.
exactly.
And, my kind of view is as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else or hurt me, then I'm going to follow that advice, even if it means, leave your house 5 minutes later
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever it is. I don't look at any kind of traffic as a problem. Like, this is a divine detour. There's some reason. But a lot of people don't get very comfortable with, and they hide those things because they're afraid to
Yeah,
get judged. But, you talk about, and you've written a book about kind of, do we know
yeah,
why we're here? Right. And I think so many people don't know why they're here.
unfortunately.
Why are you here? Why do you
I
think you're here?
think, you know how I see myself in this superhero movies. There are always like a Gandalf, a Dumbledore, someone who guides the hero. I think my mission is not to
Right.
the hero itself, but to awaken the hero,
Hmm.
to guide this hero and to tell him or her why she is here. So I see myself really as a guide, because I can see the spirits of the person and I tell like what kind of spirit he or she is, for example, angelic or whatever. So I see myself as a guide and to enlighten people, because the channel is really strong and I'm not hiding it anymore. So
Hmm.
this is my purpose here.
So how do you help other people find their purpose, though? Because you found yours. I know what mine is. It's very clear to me. And that's a very liberating feeling, by the way, because I think so many people, because they don't know why they're here, they hate
Mhm.
what they're doing, they don't know what they should do next. How do you help? What are some questions that you think people can ask themselves to help them figure out what their purpose
So
is?
there is a beautiful thing I learned in one of my classes. It's about what did you love to do when you were a little child, where you had the most joy. And I tell
Yes.
you mine, I was holding
Hmm.
the where we the hair. What is the name of this? Where we brush our hair, hairbrush.
Well, you see how little hair I have. I have
Yes,
brush.
yes,
Well, you
yes.
see
Now
how
I
little
got it.
hair
The hairbrush.
I have.
And I was singing into it. I was like into music and I imagined
Mm,
myself even back then on stage. So okay, then this is like my
right.
purpose, being on stage, singing, and I love music because in parallel I'm also a DJ. I love to do something with music. So go
Mhm.
back to your childhood and realize and remember what you did with joy the most. And not because if there is no joy, then you really miss life. It's all about joy and love.
And it's funny you say that, and I've heard that as well. And the first time I heard, I thought, I was like, this is why I'm so happy. When I was little, I would literally, I grew up as an only child, but I had lots of friends. My parents got me a big, like almost life size chalkboard, right? And I would play school, and I would make all the little kids come over, my friends, and I'd teach them stuff. And then when they weren't there, I had my little stuffed animals like in a little row, and I would teach them. Or I would play psychologist, and I didn't even know what psychologist was. I would make them sit down, and I would just diagnose their
Wow.
problems, and I would give them advice. And when I look now where I am, why am I filled with that joy, right? Why do I have that life? Because I'm a professor. and I'm a coach, which is not a psychologist,
Yeah,
but
still,
still to some
for
extent,
sure.
you still are helping people. And I used to love to speak like you. In sixth grade, we had plays, we made up our own little skits. I took drama lessons for years. So when I think of all the things that brought me joy, it's not a surprise that I'm a professional talker,
Yeah,
basically, right?
yeah, yeah.
So whether it's in coaching or teaching or doing speaking engagements or podcasting. So I think that's a great way to think about it, because so few people sit there and say, what brought me joy? Because I do think our souls know what we're really
Exactly.
meant to do. And then when we go to school, we're either told, you can't do that, or girls don't do science, or boys, should be firefighters and not nurses, or whatever it is, right? We get told all these shoulds, either by our parents, our school, our friends.
Exactly.
And now, I don't know how old you are, and no need for you to out yourself. I didn't grow up in the age of social media. I cannot imagine being a young person now growing up,
Yeah.
even very early, 3, 4, 5, and being told, this is what you should
Oh,
look like,
yeah.
this is what you should
Yeah.
want to do, this is what a good career is. So I think it makes it much harder, but that is a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's another question you think people should ask themselves, or what's something that they should think about to help them figure out this is what you're here for?
I think they should figure out, uh, they should touch spirituality here. Because if you touch the spirituality, even if it's religious scripts or whatever teachings, it doesn't matter. But you have to get in contact with these, that you connect again with the divine, with the soul. Because it's not only like having a purpose, you have to be doing this. It's not about this is a side effect to finding the purpose. But I
Mm-hmm.
believe that we are infinite beings having an experience in the human body, and it is about raising
Mm-hmm.
the consciousness level. So if you raise your consciousness level and like getting to this oneness and nothingness at the same time, and it's very complex, we can even make a podcast only about that. Yeah, I could talk for hours. But this oneness and
100%.
nothingness, how
Yes.
I get there, they should ask themselves, how do I connect to my soul again? And what is the soul? Do some research or listen to podcasts or whatever. But really, it's beyond this material world and the spiritual world, but within balance, please, and not getting out of, because unfortunately, spirituality is also misused right now. And there are many people.
How is it being misused? How is it being misused? I'd love to talk about this,
Yeah,
because I think there is, you know, before years, maybe it's more recent, but years ago, nobody would talk about
yeah, yeah, yeah,
spirituality, right? And now it's become not very mainstream, but
yeah,
more
luckily.
mainstream, even among my
Yeah, yeah,
lawyer
yeah.
friends, right? That, they're happily embracing it. But I think there's some kind of performative,
Yeah, yeah,
namaste,
yeah, 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 yeah,
everybody,
yeah, yeah,
that kind of stuff.
exactly.
And I don't, yeah, and there's, and there's the whole concept of spiritual bypassing and the concepts of toxic positivity. Now I'm throwing out all these
Hmm.
buzzwords, right? But where do you think spirituality stands today in the mainstream, and what do you think is good about how people are thinking about spirituality, and what may be a little bit
Yeah.
harmful?
So the thing is that there is no balance within these topics. So spirituality got like this, like I have to leave everything. I have to sell my car, my house, blah blah, as if it's like leaving the material world and getting to something soul, spirit, and so on. And looking, for example, looking at the numbers. Oh, 111. What's that? What that does mean? What does that mean? Like, oh my God, like, hey, stop, you make yourself crazy with these
It can be
questions.
exhausting.
Like, or I saw a feather, what does that mean? Blah blah, is this a sign from the universe? And like, or searching for a sign, and we say, oh, like, universe all the time. And I say, okay, where's the creator here? Like, this is also something, yeah, who created the universe? I also was one of the people who were asking from the universe, speaking to the angels and spirits, and starting teaching others. This is also harmful. Like, oh, I learned so much. Oh, what you think that is wrong, you have to think positive. This kind of like, I know everything better. um and you
Right.
realize that when someone has a high consciousness level, they say, I know nothing. And they only observe, and they only answer when they get asked, or when they see, okay, I have to interfere here. But some people are like, they know everything better and they insist, and they have a uncomfortable energy. So people have to be really be
Mm.
careful with to whom they go and with whom they work, especially with energies. It can be dangerous, very dangerous. Yes.
So let's speak about that in another context. Let's talk about this. So now we're going to go from our regular listeners, we're going to go way into another part now. Dark force
Mm-hmm.
entities and
Yeah.
dark energy. What is that? How do you know you're being affected by it? And what do you think people need to know? And I think, we talked about spirituality. These same concepts exist in every
Yeah.
religion as well,
Exactly.
right? So for people that are saying, oh, now they're going someplace else, a lot of the world's religions have a lot of things in common. They just
Yeah.
may call things
Exactly.
different things. So with that, for my people who are very religious, don't turn
Mm-hmm.
off, right? Let's talk a little bit about what is, whether it's a dark force entity or dark energy, what does that
Yeah,
mean to
and
you?
even if you call it in a religious way, the devil, the evil, so it is
Right.
all one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine there are two doors. The one door is going to the light and the spirit and this beautiful part, and there is another door who goes to the like dark dimension. Very simplified. It's not like that, but
Mm-hmm.
very simplified. And on this planet, if we have a human body and we have an aura, an energy field. So when my aura gets weak, then it is attackable
Yes.
by dark energies. Why do they do that? So are they bored or whatever? So they also need a kind of energy source. And as I said in the religious
Mm-hmm.
books, the devil says, I will mess with the humans until I bring them out of their way. So they mess with us
Right.
because of that. And even they serve us to get back to our spirituality if we are aware of it. This is the most trouble because we are not aware. And how you can realize that there are dark energies. So, for example, I'm as a psychic, I see them when people have them, but I don't say it
Right.
because I cannot interfere. This is their karma, only if I have sessions for sure. But this dark energies can really sabotage you. I give you one example. Working with a client on the subconscious, everything is cleared and so on, but there's still
Mm-hmm.
something,
Right.
something like we did everything. Like, what is that? And in the end, I found out that because they can hide the dark energies, there was an entity really holding on this person, trying to sabotage. Why? Stay low profile. You are not allowed to be successful because of the ancestors and whatever. So it is messing up. It is draining our energy like an energy vampire. And then we don't want to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
bed. We have no motivation, feeling depressed, frustrated, blah, blah, blah. So all these kind of elements makes us feel losing the meaning of life. And this is their target
Yep.
of these energies. And there are different types of them. Some are like easy to send away, some are more stronger, and so on. Depends on how strong you are and how they want to mess up with you,
Right.
because they don't want you to spread out your light. So how you can, as I said, if you are have a low energy, but you went to the doctor says, look, everything is fine. And the subconscious is also almost good, in good shape, but there is something. This something can be this kind of dark energies. And if, for example, little accidents happen, um, or like unfortunate things happening in your life, feeling unlucky, like why is this happening, or you have bad dreams, or spooky things happen around yourself and so on, it might be a sign. I never dare to say it is the sign. It's because they can be
Right.
anything.
Right. Right.
The thing is that other
Mm-hmm.
people might have entities, and I can be affected also. I don't have, maybe, no,
Absolutely.
but my aura is weak, so they come to me. And plant medicine, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there is a hype right now, is very opening the doors. So I don't say it is a bad thing, but if the teacher or whoever does that has to be really, really aware, knowing what he or she is doing, and they have to hold the space with full light and really giving their
Yeah.
angels and whatever kind of guidance they have the order, hold the space, there can no entrance from the outside, other dimensions and whatever. If this is missing, really, I had people in my meditation courses, they started like shaking and doing like really weird stuff, and I saw, oh, okay, they are like really um, next to them there are entities. So, and they went to plant medicine, they started seeing things and so on.
Mhm.
It can really mess up with your energy. So to your listeners and whoever is listening to that, please, you can do that, but be careful.
And it's so important that you say that, right? Because I did ayahuasca last year in
Mm,
Peru, right on the Amazon, with curanderos and people who had been very trained. But I went. The person who facilitated, she was not the person. She administered the medicine, but she wasn't really. She organized it, but she's the person who certified me in Reiki and in mindfulness. I knew her energy. I've been to her house before I knew how to talk to my own spirit guides. She
yeah,
was
yeah.
relaying messages to me, so I completely trusted her. Some other people were there, like, I saw you on TikTok. This looked interesting. I said, "Oh my gosh, why would you just like, do you have any idea?" It's like, first of all, plant medicine can be very, very
Mm-hmm.
powerful. It can change your life one way or the other, but you've got to really be able to trust, and you've got to be able to trust that that energy is pure
Exactly.
and clear. And there's an integration process. There's a preparation
Mm-hmm.
process, and like you said, you've got to make sure that that space is a specific thing. So why do you and so for me it changed my
Beautiful.
life, right? And I'm always thinking, and I just actually just a couple of weeks ago I got certified in basic and intermediate pranic healing,
Wow.
right,
Yeah,
which I
yeah, yeah.
loved. um but I've also been able to look at auras and see holes in auras and that kind of stuff. But because I'm surrounded by so many people, whether it's students, whether it's others, on planes, I am very, very conscious of
Mm-hmm.
that, of protecting that aura. I think everybody can feel energy. They just don't know
Yeah,
what it is,
exactly.
right? They're like, I just get a bad vibe when I'm
Yeah,
around that
yeah, yeah,
person,
yeah, yeah.
or or they'll use the word energy vampire, but they don't realize how serious it can be.
Definitely.
So, what are some specific tips that you have for people? I know there's certain things that I do where, when I shower, I do a whole kind of
Mm-hmm.
energy cleanse, and I kind of cut some cords, metaphorically and physically, and I really protect that energy before I leave the house, even when I get off a Zoom call, etc. But still things can
Yeah,
happen,
yeah, yeah.
right? Because I do think that sometimes darker things are attracted to the
Yeah,
light,
for
right?
sure.
So sometimes the more you give, the more you have to deal with it. But for others, what are some practical things that people can do when they just get that
Mm-hmm.
feeling that, they may not be as deep into spirituality as you are, but they still feel, whenever I'm around this person, something happens, or I don't know what it is, they just something
Mm-hmm.
about them. What can people do to protect themselves or to kind of cleanse themselves after they've been around that kind of
So,
energy?
for example, what I can recommend here is to use natural stones like amethyst, obsidian, or they can, yeah, like you have exactly, and they can command the stone. So they clear it in like maybe overnight in water with salt. They when they
Yep.
buy it, and then they command, okay, I give you the command to protect me, because we cannot stay on alert all the time. It's overwhelming. I have to protect myself.
Right.
And I always say, if you are in your pure light, then you don't need it anymore. But to get there,
Right.
you can command the stone and use it. The second thing is to use purple light to do clearing. So when I have also the feeling,
Yep.
this was not a nice person with or bad energies, I imagine myself that from the universe, like showering myself with purple light, and like really
Hmm.
getting everything away from my body and my field, which doesn't belong to me. And really, I'm asking out loud, and I
Yep.
say, dear spiritual guides, please take any kind of energy which doesn't belong to me. One important reminder here: your spiritual guides doesn't interfere without any permission.
Unless you
Always
ask.
say out loud,
Absolutely.
please do that, do this, and with respect also. I have people who said,
I'm going to stop you there because I want people to hear
yeah,
this, right? Because many people grow up, again, whether regardless of your
mhm,
religion or spirituality, with the thought of, I have a guardian angel. But they think that that guardian angel, yes, they're looking out for you, but they're
yeah,
not going to come in, right? You've got to, because we have
yeah,
free will,
exactly,
right? Whether,
exactly.
And that's what we come here for. And so that's why it's important to say, hey, I need you. I do it all the time. Like, all right, y'all, everybody needs to come in. Spirit guides, angels, helpers, your spirit guides, everybody come in and help. And I'll say it in a joking kind of a way. And then very quickly, something that I did not expect, because I won't ask, I'll just say, I won't say, I need you to help me because I need $1,000 tomorrow. It might be, you know what's going on, whatever, in an unexpected way, but just, bring it to me as long as it's for my good and the highest good of all, bring it to me, right? Or I need your help. But people think, well, my guardian angel or my grandmother's looking down on me.
Might be, yeah.
Might be. But she's also like, you gotta ask me some help because I'm not just gonna step in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really important. So let's reiterate, right? We've got the purple light, right? So I also talk about surrounded by the violet flame, right? I think about it in that kind of way, right? You've got the stones. I don't wear all these crystals for myself. I wear them for other people because there's not a time I don't wear some of these rings, just like this, where somebody just says, oh my gosh, I love that. And I don't know if it's for somebody like they needed to see it. So after we're finishing today, I'm going to do proctor a final exam. There's going to be a lot of very heavy energy in that room. I'm doing it more for them because whether I've got it on or not, I feel good, right? And I feel clear. But if one person can say, oh, that's pretty, and it just affects them in some way, even if they don't know, okay, what labradorite or moldavite or all the ites do, it still can affect them in some way.
And I want to add here something, if you allow. So these symbols, like the stones, I wear them too. It's beautiful, but never make them more powerful than you are. Like, we are the light.
Absolutely.
We are the infinite being, not a stone, not something else, not the purple light, but these are tools. That's okay, because before that, when I was coming here, it was like, oh, I forgot my natural stone. Oh my God, I hope that today nothing bad happens. Like, okay, if you say it out loud, then it might be.
Right. And that's so important too, because I think people, I've had a friends like, let's go to the crystal store together. I want to get crystals like you. I said, all right, let's go. Right. Like, what do you think about this? It's like, it's not what I think about it. What do you think about it? Right. Does it draw you? And what does it mean? I said, just does it draw you? Right. Yeah. There are some meanings behind them, but how do you feel when you hold it? Right. Cause it'll jump to you. If you don't feel it, right. And don't think that, okay, now I've got my carnelian in my pocket. All good things are going to happen from my root chakra. Right. And I think sometimes we're so busy, like on TikTok, and I learn everything about crystals. Now I'm like magically the light. And you're right. And it takes a lot of work to get to that point. And I think people need that quick fix of my 100 affirmations, then I'm going to script, then I'm going to go out in the full moon, then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to put the salt. Now you can do that, but if you don't do that inner work, in every tradition, water and salt is a purifying thing, right? Every tradition has that. There's some people that you got to put the water and the salt in the different corners of your house, but if you don't actually know why, and if you don't think about it, and you don't do that inner work, then you're just going to have some salty water all over your house and pretty stones in the house. And you're like, but my life still sucks. Why? Because you haven't.
Yeah, exactly. And they get frustrated then, and they say, oh, these kind of things doesn't work. It does, but you didn't have this, as you said, the inner work before, and then it doesn't work for sure.
Now, you wrote a book, and it came out, I believe, in September.
Yes.
Available on Amazon. We will have links to it in the show notes. What made you write a book, and what was the hardest part of it? Because obviously you had a message you wanted to share. And there's some ridiculous statistic about how many people want to write a book and never actually do it. I'm one of those lazy people. I want to write a book, but I don't want to write a whole book. So I've written book chapters and other books because I was like, let me write a book chapter. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. But number one, what's the advice that you have for people who want to write a book? And number two, why did you write this book and why now?
The first advice is overcome your fear of failure, because this is why they don't write, because it might fail. It might sell only one piece. So don't write the book for others, but write it for yourself. I wrote this book as if I would write it to my younger self. The book is for my younger self who was searching, got lost, stopped believing in God and whatever. So, and I thought to myself, how would I explain the younger Melissa this journey in an easy way, like really like elementary school, as easy as possible, and how I can put all the elements in. And I see it not only like
Right.
a book, but as a guide, a book that you can many times open up and, how was that? Like this. Because um, I found out some truth for myself, and I discovered this inner peace, this joy, and this consciousness level. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I have to tell the others. You know that when you get some big news
Yeah.
and you, oh my God, I have to tell the others. And it is exactly what I experienced, because I had also the religion part, the science part, and I put all the elements together because I was searching all my life. Why we are here? Where
Yeah.
is God? Who is God? And why are there rich people and poor people? Why is there war and there is whatever? Yeah. And now I got the answers, and I said, oh, this is easy. I have to tell the others. And this is my mission.
So, what are some tidbits from your book that you can share with us? Because, of course, we're going to put the link so
Yeah,
people
yeah,
can
yeah.
buy it. But what are two or three big takeaways that people will get when they read the book, or that you want them to get?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
sometimes you write and people don't take away what we want. But what do you want them to get?
The first thing is, which is very important, is for myself, I get away from religion and went to spirituality. So I was really turning my back.
Mhm.
And in this book, I
Yeah.
explained that religion and spirituality are not that far away, but very connected. And I tried to explain this because turning your back to God is not a good idea, but many of us does. And we went to spirituality and universe, blah blah. So that it's not necessary, and it has nothing to do with God that He's punishing us. To understand, it's making peace with God again, in combination of
Ah,
with the
okay.
subconscious mind and how the human body works, this universe within you. And then on a scientific way with this quantum field, how you can make magic happen, and your heart magnetic field, for example, that your heart is the place which is most important in your human body physically, and how we can combine spirituality with your human body and religion and science. I try it, and the hardest
Mm,
part is like I could write for like much more. Like how can I explain it as
right.
easy as possible, as short as possible? And this was challenging for sure.
I can imagine. So you've written the book. What kind of response have you been getting to the book, and what have people been telling you in terms of how it's affected them or changed their lives?
It is like, is it that simple? Because they thought it was much more complicated. And it's like, this is like too simple, too easy. Like, how is that possible? This is the one thing. And people say that they really have it in their bags and like love to look to the inside. And I have a lot of pictures to explain it. And this wakes up their inner child also because of the pictures. And it's not like a book, but it is more like something that lives.
Right.
And people experience also the spirit, as if the books has a spirit. It has a soul, and
Ah,
this they can really sense, they said, and it makes me really happy about that.
and tell us the name of the book.
It's Wake Up Your Soul.
Wake Up Your Soul.
Yeah.
So when you think about, I want to get to a little bit broader topic before we close. I think we all have an opportunity and an obligation to kind of bring our light to the
Mm-hmm.
world, especially at a time where we are right now. For the people who say, I don't have anything to contribute, I don't have any light to give, I'm in such darkness right now. What would you say to people who are in that frame of mind? Again, we're filming this in
Mm-hmm.
December. We have, a war going on
Yes,
with Israel and
yes, yes,
Hamas.
yes.
This is the holiday times for many people, which is for them is some of the loneliest times of the year because maybe they've lost a loved one or they don't have anybody in their life and they see
Mm-hmm.
everybody singing Christmas
Yeah.
carols or going to their holiday celebrations for Hanukkah and they feel alone. What's some advice that you could give to people about just finding even that little spark of light in
Mm-hmm.
them that they could shine someplace
Yeah,
else?
interestingly, I have a lot of sessions where people tell me that they feel lonely. And I will also give here the message from the spirits, what comes up most time when people say it. And it's about like that
Mm-hmm.
they people close your eyes and then you can feel that you're surrounded by light, like this connection again. what I do is, because I'm also alone in Dubai, I have no family or someone here. So when I have a little bit of this
Mm-hmm.
feeling, I close my eyes and I imagine that I'm surrounded by light, but not even that, but God itself. Like not above the sky, beyond the sky, somewhere, but He's here within me. When I look in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
I see Him through me. Means not
Mm-hmm.
I'm God, but I
Mm-hmm.
see Him. So close your eyes
Mm-hmm.
and imagine His light and His surrounding, because when I have these readings and people say, I have the feeling God doesn't love me or I'm alone, it makes me goosebumps, because I, in that very moment, feel the love of God, of the spirits, and
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we are here. So try to connect to
Right.
this spiritual realm.
Excellent. Now, last question I'm going to ask you is there a book or a song or a mantra or a movie or a play or even a saying that or quote that you might have heard that really impacted and influenced your life? And what is that?
Well, I love this Marvel series in the movies. So the Doctor Strange is one of the one who affected me in a spiritual way, like what is
Yeah.
possible, as a book. And like Michael Jackson's words are also affecting me. Like, if you want to change the world, look into the mirror and change yourself. So this is where it
Yeah.
starts, and it's always about us. So, quote of Michael Jackson and Doctor Strange is one of many, for sure.
I don't think people realize how spiritual a text and a movie that Doctor
Yeah,
Strange is
yeah,
because there's a whole lot of
yeah,
metaphysics
yeah,
in
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So what's the last thing you want people to hear? If they remember nothing else from this conversation we've had, what's the last thing you want people to know?
Hmm. I want them to remember that they have to experience the love within themselves and not seeking the love outside, not seeking approval from the outside, but it's all in the inside. And if they don't solve it in the inside, they will struggling, continuing struggling in the life, and by people and whatever, they get tested. So when you want to heal yourself, look into the mirror and start working on yourself. And I promise you, your life will change, because mine has. So it is possible.
I love it. I love it. Well, Melissa Kazan, it has been such a joy. This has been such a fun
Yes.
conversation. I feel like we could have talked all
Yes,
day.
exactly.
We are going to provide information about how people can work with you because you are taking clients,
Yes.
correct? Um, and links to your book and anything else. And hopefully, if you all listen to this, please make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and that you share this episode because you might have said, they were a little far out for me. But somebody you know needs
Yeah.
to hear this message. First of all, I think it's you. But and if you listen all the way to the end, you already know that. But share it with somebody else because no matter when this episode comes out, there are people who are living with such
Yeah.
darkness, right? And I give myself the slogan of the lawyer light worker because I believe my purpose is to help show the light, shine the light, and help other people who shine the light
Exactly.
bring it out, right? And so everybody has a role to play. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure you share with others and please reach out to Melissa for coaching and for her services because she is awesome. And if you're not watching it on video, go watch it on video. You'll see all the light that surrounds her too.
Thank you very much.
So thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Take
Thank you.
care. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the next episode. If you like what you heard, subscribe and share it with others.